Time for Wednesday's hour number 2 on hashtag Daily K with your host, Peter Bint. Korean dramas, movies, and even lyrics. Why is the world paying attention to Korean stories?
From classics to modern masterpieces, time to dig deep into the charms of Korean literature.
On Check It Out
with Paul.
Paul.
Peter.
You gotta refresh your act from time to time.
What do you mean?
You, as a theatre man, must know.
What are you saying?
That you can't have the same tired old routine forever and ever, can you?
What is the problem?
So, in our opening music for Check It Out, we often pretend to orchestrate with a pen or something, and that's what you're doing. But did you not take my lead? You should have. Like, I did something new and fresh today.
That's not new and fresh. Madonna was voguing in the 1990s.
I was trying to take Doctor
Vogue.
Strange's inspiration,
Let
to be
your
honest.
body move to the music.
No, I was trying to Benedict Cumberbatch it. Thank you very much.
Cumberbatch.
I can call him what I want because he went to Harrow School and I lived in Harrow. I did not go to the school, but still.
Okay, I have a friend who was in Hamlet with Benedict Cumberbatch.
No, the point
in the West End.
Let's refresh our routines, okay, Paul? Let's keep ourselves.
Well, then why don't you change the theme music or change the introduction?
Listen, our producer Minnie's not feeling very well.
I'm not saying it's her fault. Not criticising her.
Okay, how are you doing, Paul?
Not very good.
22nd of May. Not very good anymore since I'm picking and poking holes in you.
Yeah.
Have you had a good week? Are you enjoying the weather a bit?
Yeah, it's sort of it's getting to the point where I'm starting to sweat.
Yes.
So like mornings, evenings are great. Sort of in the middle of the day.
What blanket are you using? Your summer blanket?
We're still on the early spring blankets.
Me too. I started sweating in bed the other day for the first time this year.
Oh, yeah.
It means I need to change my blanket, but I still can't be bothered to get it out of the wardrobe.
I know, it's a pain in the... what's the word?
It is in the sawe, in the society. What does that bring to mind for today's hashtag? Sawe society.
4 pieces of raw fish.
Sawe.
4 meetings.
Where can mean raw fish, and then hui can mean meeting, and sa can mean 4.
빨리 사, 해. Buy me some raw fish quickly.
Dad jokes are running thin.
I love raw fish.
I wanted to... Do you?
I really do.
What's your favourite raw fish? Do you like Korean-style raw fish as well? You know, because it is very different to sashimi in Japan, where a lot of it is like suksong or fermented or rested for days.
Look, I have to say, I love Japanese sushi and sashimi. I think it's great. I lived there. I love it. It's good. But I love going to the seaside.
Yeah.
And I love getting what we call in Korea hwalohe, which is like the live fish, the fish that is basically immediately killed and cut up for your consumption.
Oh, really? So and you like all those kind of white fleshy ones like kwangeo and things like that?
Oh, absolutely. Because in Korea, it's not just about the raw fish. They are the integral part of the meal. But it's also about having like the twigim, the deep fried bits and pieces, having the sannakji, the raw octopus, having maybe some boiled prawns, then having your seafood, but also you get the other hesanmul, the other kinds of seafood.
Yeah.
Like you get the sea cucumber or the sea squirt and the other things.
The weedy beardy bits.
Yeah, and then you get the crowning glory.
Oh, you like the finishing off. Wow.
The mayuntang, the spicy fish
the bones and everything.
Because then you get like the head of the fish, we got the delicious cheek, you get the bones with the extra flesh, you get the tail, and you get lots of fresh greens in there, in this spicy soup. It's one of those rice thieves, the babduduk, as we say in Korean.
It would have been great if you were either Ryan tomorrow talking about this or even Mark yesterday because he went fishing and then got it cooked like this. But I asked you about Sawe society. I even gave you the English, so stop going off on a tangent. What do you think of society?
Terrible. You need to change it.
I don't know how I feel about that word, what that brings. Society.
Well, the problem is it can be used and it can be misused, I think. For me, the word I associate with Sawe is budam, or pressure.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think not only here in Korea, but everywhere, there are societal pressures that we are fighting against and that we need to keep fighting against because the world needs to change. And we got young people, for example, who are living very different lives, very open and free lives. And the people at the top who are a lot older, who have no idea, are trying to pressure them not to live that way.
I think, though, the MZ generation is doing something correctly where they're not, as we say in Korean, like 눈치 보고 있어. They're not really caring about the feathers they're ruffling. And, you know, they can go too far. I do sometimes think, oh, it shouldn't be that direct. But with a lot of what they're doing, I think it's upsetting that status quo in a good way.
Absolutely. And if you want to have a Pride festival, then why shouldn't you be able to hold it in Seoul Plaza?
Of course, festivals and freedom, that is at the forefront. We are getting to a book that Leon, in particular, is incredibly excited about.
Oh, good.
Saying, I haven't for a while managed to complete a book in time for your reading.
He says, good morning, Paul. Can you just put that in there, please?
No. Must say I really enjoyed today's book, and it's a really short read as well.
It is. It's a novella. So it's only about 160, 70 pages.
Okay.
You can get through it very quickly for a quick reader. Thank you, Leon. I'm so glad you liked it, Leon. I loved it too. And I think this is a great book. It is a treat. It's a recently released fantasy novel.
Ooh.
It's called A Magical Girl Retires.
Wow.
It's written by Park Seolyeon, and it's translated by Anton Hur. And for those who are not familiar with magical girls, if you didn't grow up...
magical girl? Is that my wife?
Okay. Have you heard of Sailor Moon?
I have. That animation.
Yes. Sailor Moon is, for example, one of the representative magical girls. These young girls in animations and comics that Korean kids used to read that have magic powers.
All right.
Yeah. And so we enter a world where these magical girls from the comics and the animations are really real.
Oh, wow.
And our main character, the narrator, finds herself wrapped up in a journey of self-discovery. Could she be a magical girl?
Oh.
And a little bit of magic.
But she retires. Well, the title says. Okay, all right, we'll
Peter,
get to it. I won't
do
interrupt.
not get ahead of yourself.
I apologise. Yeah, and Leon was also saying that other people who were seeking comfort might be able to get it from this book as well.
Absolutely. We'll talk about that. Leon, part 3, Leon.
Part
3.
Not me this time, it's you, Leon. All right, have we featured Park Seolyeon?
No, our first time, and it's her first novel to be translated into English.
Oh, great.
Very exciting. She's born in Chorwon, now lives in Seoul. She made her debut by winning the Silchon Minhak's New Author Prize. She's also won the Hankyoreh Literary Award for her debut, The Woman Who Climbed on the Roof. She's got a couple of other prestigious literary awards, published several novels, as well as 2 short story collections. I hope this is not the last we hear from her in English, because it's a really great book.
Fingers crossed indeedy. Okie dokie. And Anton Hur, we know the superstar of translation at the moment, it seems.
And I have to say, a couple of weeks ago...
Yep.
As I was in the middle of reading this book, I happened to head out of Seoul to sort of near the coast, talking about seafood.
Yeah.
And walked past a cafe. Suddenly, my social media, someone said, Paul, are you outside this cafe in this place?
Oh!
I said yes.
Yeah.
Who runs out of the cafe but Anton Hur himself?
What an unbelievable coincidence.
It was fabulous. We had never met until that point, but we got to meet in person. It was glorious. Just a few minutes having a quick chat because he was having a coffee with his husband.
Wow.
And I was off. I got to do some shows. But it was just the most glorious moment of going, you know, we've been messaging on social media. I've been reading his books here on Arirang. And finally we had the chance to meet. So it's just a happy coincidence.
That's unbelievable. I know he's really kindly kept a few tabs on the show as well when we first started doing his stuff and got his permission and everything.
Oh, yeah. And he's always so supportive of other translators. He's been a big mover and shaker himself, but I think he's always been pushing for younger translators to get a chance to sort of get their name on the board, as it were. A lot of respect for him, and I love his translations. And I should say his debut novel is now less than 2 months away. Comes out July 9th, Toward Eternity. I have to persuade Mini PD for us to feature it on the show because it's not a translation.
Okay, looking forward to that. I hope there is a Korean edition available.
I'm sure there will be. He translates from English into Korean as well.
Yeah. Okie dokie. Our first reading, do we need to set the scene in any way?
No, it's going to be the start of the book.
All right, here we go.
What's the best way to die that would create the least amount of annoyance for everyone else? I think I've worked hard enough at life. I wasn't given much, but I tried my best not to waste any of it, at least. But even as I've come this far on my own 2 feet, I can't help but feel other people have been pushing me along all the way. The wait number dispensed to me at the bank was 777. 29. Doesn't everyone feel like this at that age? I once read an article online titled 36 Questions That Lead to Love. It was in the New York Times, and evidently any couple who answered these 36 questions together was bound to end up in love. Question 7 went like this. Do you have a secret hunch about how you will die? I'm probably going to die without anyone knowing. That's my hope, and also what's probably going to happen. It's the one wish in my life that I honestly feel has any chance of coming true. And the opportunity for this wish to come true is very close at hand. Tuesday, 3 a.m., Mapo Bridge in Western Seoul. An average of 0.3 cars per minute zoom by, taking for granted their right to move at the speed of bullets at this hour. As I sit leaning against the railings, I'm certain none of their drivers have seen me. I've been sitting here for the past 2 hours. The last time a pedestrian passed by was about 40 minutes before. I could tell they were drunk even from afar. Who else would cross this long bridge in the middle of the night? Someone in their right mind? But afraid of being bothered, I hugged my legs so tight. My heels touched my behind. I stopped breathing. Given this stumbling, drunk person had passed right in front of me, I figured he'd had plenty of time to notice my presence, but he seemed not to. He was walking slower than I had expected, and so I had to gasp for breath as soon as he passed me. But he didn't look back, which weirdly made me sad. Was I invisible? Had someone pressed the mute button on me? Maybe my gasp sounded louder to me than it actually was. I was wearing a mask after all. It could have muffled the sound. I'd been imagining he would discover me and pick a fight and oh no, one of us would push the other over the railings. But once he simply passed by without incident, I felt not relief, but sadness. How odd. Not that I couldn't exactly understand why. After all, I hadn't only imagined the man and me struggling against the railing. I had another fantasy that alcohol had unfurled the man's busybody flag, and he would ask me why I was sitting here alone crying and be concerned for me. I'm such an idiot. The tears that had paused began to flow again. I drank some water, and feeling pathetic about how I'd come here to throw myself in the river, yet was drinking water because I felt thirsty, I threw the plastic bottle over the railing. That was half an hour ago. Sorry for polluting the environment. I'm the real pollution. But then I started feeling thirsty again and regretted my decision. Why did I throw away my water? Oh, maybe I was just born to regret everything.
And lots of our listeners commenting on this first reading so far.
What are they saying?
The amount of self-blame from the main character, OMG, says Yana. Yeah, kind of feeling like they really don't like themselves and feel that they're the pollution as well in this world. Yana also saying, we're going so deep right from the start. Siska saying the book cover that we showed on the video stream looks like a manga comic cover indeed.
It does. It's inspired by Korean and Japanese comics that young girls read as teenagers.
Yeah. Tigrish saying the number of times that I have felt like a bother, like a waste, unimportant, a pest in the past month. The opening hits very close to home.
Tigrish, you have value. You have worth. And no matter what the little chip on your shoulder is telling you, you are loved and you are valued.
Every life out there, right? So precious.
No, there's a few. I could name names, but I might get sued.
And you know, I think everyone at some point, and for differing amounts of time in proportion to, you know, their lives on this planet, feels like that at least once. I think,
absolutely.
Right?
I think especially either when you're a teenager or in your 20s. And this is significant. She's turned 29. Because I think that's a really tough age. Once you turn 30 and you get over the existential dread of turning 30, your 30s, I think, the people I talk to, and I talk from my experience, and I would say probably for your experience as well, that even though as a dad it's been tough, as a human being, you feel more settled.
Yes.
You feel like I'm finding my way a little bit more.
You know who you are, fully, I feel.
And then you get to the 40s, and it's just
it's just completely down the toilet.
Yeah.
But yeah, it feels like for you, Tigrish, for this girl as well, going through a really bad patch. I'm assuming if this is our main character, unless this is one of those novels where it kind of starts at the end.
No, don't worry. We're following what Kurt Vonnegut called, because he used to describe story structures.
Yeah.
It starts with man in hole, man gets out of hole.
Okay, good. So she doesn't commit suicide.
No. It seems like everything is hopeless. She's in debt. She thinks there's no future. But then this woman stops in a taxi on the bridge, gets out, and rescues her. And her name is Aroa. And she tells her, I'm a magical girl, and you are destined to be a magical girl too.
Oh, wow. Okay, and this is literally.
Yeah, and so Roa, her skill as a magical girl is she is clairvoyant. So she has this special mirror, and when she looked into it, she saw the narrator's face. And we never know the name of the narrator.
Okay.
But yes, saw her face, like, okay, that means I have to go find her. She's a magical girl. And perhaps she is the most important magical girl I've been looking for, which is the magical girl of time.
Oh.
And this is the magical girl that could help us save the planet.
Wow.
Meanwhile, the narrator's going, huh? What? Excuse me?
Okay, so there's not like magical girls all in society.
No, there are. Oh. They're on the news, but she's never considered herself to be one.
Wow.
She's ordinary. She's in debt. She's a loser. She feels she's worthless. She grew up with her grandfather looking after her. Her grandfather was a jeweler who fixed watches, and she became obsessed with watches. But then after graduation, never went anywhere. Her grandfather always said, oh, you're a genius, but her life hasn't ended up in any good place. But now, this chance meeting for her, but certainly Roa thinks it's not chance, it's fate, means things are changing. So Roa gives her a business card, because she's an officer for the Union of Magical Girls.
Okay.
And the narrator goes home, and she sleeps on it. A few days later, she calls up and says, can I find out more?
Oh.
And Roa takes her under a wing. Mm-hmm. And takes her to a meeting of these magical girls. She quickly finds herself involved in stopping a terrorist attack on the other side of the world.
Wow.
She gets to see these magical girls in action. They all have their own superpower. Everyone's different.
Yeah.
But she doesn't know what her power's meant to be. Is she the magical girl of time? And so the chairperson, or the chairwoman of this union, gets her to come, and she's told to bring her precious possessions to make a talisman, and that talisman will help her sort of activate her powers.
All right.
And so she brings a photo of her and her grandfather, and she brings the very first watch he gave her.
Oh. And
so this is going on, and the chairperson is using her magic to make this talisman and thinking, what's going to come out? Will it be some kind of timepiece or watch? It's a credit card.
What?
It's a black credit card.
That's her talisman.
And everyone's like, oh, good for you. Yeah. Oh, you go, girl.
Okay.
But that's your talisman. That's what you've got. And so Roa then takes her to the park, because a nice big open space is where you can practice. See if you can transform into the magical girl in all the costume and everything.
Oh, wow, that happens.
And she's starting to do it, and it seems to be going really well. But then suddenly Roa just stops and stares at her and looks really upset.
Why?
Because she's just got a psychic message to say that the actual magical girl of time has just awakened her powers somewhere else.
Oh, no.
So the narrator is not who she thought she was going to be.
Roa's made a mistake.
Yeah, and Roa runs off. She has to go and deal with that. And she sends a letter to the narrator sort of saying, so sorry, I'm so embarrassed, but I've got to, go and sort this out because it's really important. And so the narrator, after all this, hooray, you're the magical girl of time, is left in her apartment with no money, and she has to go and find a part-time job at a convenience store.
And she's not got the superpower then?
Well, she's got a superpower, but she still doesn't know what it is, but she's not this sort of the chosen one. She's not Neo in the Matrix. And so she gets this job at a convenience store on the weekends, and she suddenly runs into Roa again, who says, you are part of my destiny. And that's where the second reading comes in. We get to have this conversation as Roa sort of explains things.
Okay, I hope it's all not gloom and doom. Let's take it away.
Roa let go of my hands. My complicated feelings must have shown up on my face. I don't expect things to change all of a sudden or anything. I apologize if using a word like destiny makes you feel uncomfortable. It's not that I wanted to say, but the traffic jam inside my head made it impossible to know what it was or wasn't. But I am the clairvoyant magical girl after all. If I felt it wouldn't work out, I wouldn't have even mentioned it. Setting what she was actually saying aside, her firm, exuberant, really, way of saying it made me think that everything was going to work out all right. I don't know for sure yet, but I like you too, Roa. Maybe not in the same way as you like me, but I want you to always be by my side. I have no idea how you managed to like me, but well, if that's how you feel. Thank you. My answer made Roa clench her hands into fists. You'll see, before long, you'll be saying you like me too. Well, if the clairvoyant magical girl thinks so, then it must be true, I thought as I took her hand. The floating umbrella came down and landed in Roa's other hand. It was much later when I realized that was the very first time I had reached out to take her hand, rather than the other way around. So, who was the real magical girl of time? I thought this would be an easier question for Roa to answer than whether she had succeeded in making contact with her. Roa glanced at me sideways before giving me a knowing smile, as if she understood I was trying to make things less difficult. Someone who would be very frightening if she wasn't going to be on our side. Aha, she's met her. I'm guessing she's probably younger than me. She must be so powerful she doesn't even need a talisman to realize her powers. Our side? I hope so, she said. Are you saying she isn't? She's not on anyone's side at the moment, but judging by her refusal to join our union and some other issues that have come up, perhaps she's... Roa became lost in thought, her words trailing off. The thing is, she continued, usually there's an incident that leads to a magical girl coming into her powers. We call them triggers. For example, maybe the only student at a small country school ends up becoming a magical girl of making because she really wanted to make a friend. Or a girl loses her parents to a car accident, wishes she could predict accidents, and becomes a clairvoyant magical girl. That sort of thing. Was she talking about herself? I gripped her hand a little harder. If that really is your story, you and I have much more in common than I thought. Maybe we really are destined for each other. How did the magical girl of time realize her powers? I asked. When do you think people normally hope for time to stop in its tracks? Well, maybe when they're really happy? Roa came to a stop, turning to look at me with an arched eyebrow. And why is that?
So did I miss it, or we don't know how she's in Roa's destiny?
We don't, but obviously Roa thinks that there's a reason. She appeared on her mirror.
Uh-huh.
So, but she may not be the magical girl of time, but she's important to her.
Somebody.
And, I mean, if you can read between the lines in this, Roa likes her.
Oh, okie dokie.
Yeah, and the narrator is not sure whether she maybe likes Roa in the same way yet, but certainly she wants to be friends.
Okay, so they continue their relationship, as in they continue meeting each other?
Yes, without the pressures of society. Yeah.
Okay, so the magical girl of time, I'm a little worried now. She might be a baddie?
Well, this is the thing. There is danger on the way. And it turns out that, you know, this magical girl of time was gonna be the one.
Yeah.
Gonna be the one to save the planet from the climate apocalypse. Because that's the big disaster. There's not some evil villain. Okay. There's not some big robot in the sky. Basically, we've messed up.
Uh-huh.
But the magical girl of time is not interested.
Oh, dear.
And the moment why she got her powers was she was a victim of domestic violence. And in that moment, she stopped time. She paralyzed the attacker.
Okay.
And then dealt with him, took revenge in a particularly nasty way.
Uh-oh.
And it's turning out that she's maybe not one of the good girls.
Uh-oh. Okay, well, she was in a very bad situation, so maybe give her some leeway.
She was, but it's not looking good. And Roa's like, look, I've got stuff to do. This is really important. You know, we've got to sort this out. We've got to try and get her, persuade her.
Yeah.
So what does the narrator do? Well, she doesn't have any powers yet, and she's got a part-time job to go to at the convenience store.
Yay.
It's Saturday night. what are you going to do? Work the night shift.
Yay.
And her boss is there to show her the ropes.
Okay.
And then it gets to 2 a.m., which is the time when pretty much nobody comes in. Her boss is falling asleep in front of a video on a phone. And it's that video that catches the narrator's attention.
Oh.
And she's like, I think I should find this. And when her boss goes home and says, you can do the rest of the shift, she gets on her phone to search for this video. As soon as I picked up my phone and opened the search window, I realized I had nothing to worry about. Magical Girl of Time was already trending. This time I watched the video with the sound on. Hello, my name is Arirang. Her face looked like she was anywhere from 17 to 25, but her voice was clearly that of a young girl. The youthfulness of her voice and the adult-like manner of her speech were almost dissonant. I couldn't help but mumble, how does even her name mean future? Truly, this was someone born to be the magical girl of time. I am a survivor of domestic violence. I do not want to define myself in this way, but I need to introduce myself as such for now. Was that why she was holding that rose? I peered at her closely. In a measured voice, she continued to speak. Recently, I came in possession of an inexplicable superpower. To explain it in terms you will be familiar with, I seem to have realized the powers of a magical girl. Specifically, according to what is Korea's largest union and association for magical girls, I am the magical girl of time. This explained why there were so many hits on the video. A magical girl of her magnitude had revealed her identity online. The Union has proposed a plan where I save humanity by stopping climate change. Apparently, this is something only the magical girl of time can pull off. As a beginner, who has only just discovered her powers, I am very grateful for the confidence they have placed in me, but have informed them their proposal is beyond me. And this is what I wish to tell everyone in the Republic of Korea and the world at large. I remembered what Roa had told me. It would be a fearsome thing if the magical girl of time weren't on our side. It is my belief that the world does not need humanity. Arirang paused for a moment before continuing. My own suffering led me to this conclusion. But in the grand scheme of things, I think it's the right idea to have. The history of humanity is one of war. Humans harm each other and harm the planet. There is a reason this power was given to someone like me. Which is why I wish to use my power to accelerate the end of humanity. You may have your suspicions about my motives. You may even doubt I am truly the magical girl of time. And if you do have such doubts, I urge you to rewatch this video from the very beginning. What did that mean? Despite the fact that I believed her, I scrolled back to the beginning to watch the video again. Nothing about it had changed. When the video got back to the point where I'd scrolled back, she continued, if you understand the power that I hold, you will also understand it is impossible to stop me. I am sending you this message so humanity will realize its past foolishness and prepare itself for the end. Climate change will escalate dramatically from this point on. Thank you to the Union for the idea. Then she put down the rose she was holding. That's when I realized why she had asked us to watch the video from the beginning. I was so focused on her that I hadn't noticed, but by the end of the video, the rosebud had shriveled. The magical girl of time had sped through the rose's entire lifespan to prove that she had the power to.
Don't tell me it ends here, the book.
Well, but I end here because, of course, I'm not going to spoil it.
How far along are we about?
According to my ebook app, I think it was 63%.
Okay. All right, so still a lot to come.
There's a lot more to come. We're just over halfway through. There's so much more for the narrator and for ourselves to discover. But, of course...
Just tell us a few little bits. Does the narrator have secret powers?
She's a magical girl. We know she's a magical girl, but we don't know what her powers are.
Okay. And the black credit card is her talisman, so it's got to be linked to that. She has the power to loan as much money as she wants without interest.
You're going to have to read it.
Okay.
Buy it or borrow it. As Leon says, it's a great book. Leon's got great taste, and I highly recommend it too, especially if you are a manhwa, manga, comic, or animation fan.
Are there pictures throughout the book? Or
There's sort of at every chapter heading, there's a little illustration, gorgeous illustrations.
Nice.
If you're a fan of Sailor Moon or this kind of thing, this is right up your street. Wow. And I think this is why it was a big hit here, because there are so many comics that Korean kids read, and especially girls read these magical girls comics. Mm-hmm. But when you take the magical girls and you put them into the real society, into an adult space, then you get a very, very different story.
Yeah.
And it's about this woman who's 29. She's in her late 20s, who's got no hope. And I think that's the target audience. Those women who grew up wanting to be magical girls, but got into their mid or late 20s and are going, oh, no magic power, not in a relationship, work in a job I hate, don't have enough money, cost of living is rising. What am I going to do?
Yeah, it's really perfect for our daily Korean sentence we did today. 사회 생활은 너무 어려워.
Exactly.
Like life, especially work life, is just so tough.
Yeah, and that's what I really love about it, is that this could have been the, oh, we're going to go to Hogwarts. Oh, look at us. We're all magical girls and all having fun together. But no, it's about, this is reality. And yes, there are magical girls, but it's not a romanticization of life.
Wow.
And each one has their own issues and problems. And it takes our society and sees how that would affect this fantastical situation.
I like that.
And the other thing is that, and I'm sorry to be a Debbie Downer or a Donald Downer, but Korea has a problem when it comes to young women and the obstacles and the dangers and the pressures they face in Korean society. We've got this whole, it's awful to say, but it is this trend of ex-boyfriends being violent towards their ex-girlfriends.
In some of the worst cases, murder, right?
Exactly, and we're not talking about just one case. We had the convenience store where a man attacked a young woman working there because she had short hair.
Goodness gracious.
Didn't even know her. There are many, many people out there who are victims of domestic violence. Many people who are out there who are in debt. Many people who may well be losing hope entirely.
Yeah.
And considering what our narrator does at the start of this book. And
being
I would
on
say,
the bridge, literally or figuratively.
Yeah, and I would say if you are feeling this way, there are organizations out there. There are anonymous helplines you can call. There are people out there you can talk to. Please do talk to someone because it's so important. And the message of this book is hope. It's not a perfect hope.
No.
And I'm not spoiling the ending by saying it's not a perfect hope. But you get to the ending and go, okay, actually, this is the ending we need for this book.
Okay.
There is always a little bit of hope, and there's always a helping hand, even when we're in our darkest hour.
Yeah, I like that. I like the book. I really am tempted to actually go and get it and finish it off. One-line review, please, Paul.
A fabulous fantasy that will make you want to be a magical girl no matter who you are.
Fantastic. And next week, what do we have?
We've got a short story from the Penguin Book of Korean Short Stories and another one, It's Time for You and Me by Hwang Sun-won, translated by Bruce and Juchan Fulton. If you've read it, let me know.
Okay, and thank you, Paul, as ever, for your delightful reading.
Thanks to everyone. Thanks to LTI of Korea for the help with Copyright Ambition for always. And thanks to Park Seolyeon for a brilliant story and Anton Hur for his always excellent translations. I'll be back next week with another book.
You can listen to Check It Out with Paul Matthews on Arirang Radio's #DailyK every Wednesday from 10 a.m. KST.